All right, let's jump right into a really cool marketing idea that actually explains, well, a superhuman puzzle. I mean, you've seen this, right? It's that classic scene. You've got one friend who'll literally camp out for the new iPhone, and then you've got your dad who's like, nope, my flip phone is perfectly fine, thank you very much. So what is going on there? Well, it's not random. It's actually a predictable pattern. And that pattern, oh yeah, it's got a name. It's called the diffusion of innovation model. It sounds a bit academic, but trust me, it's this brilliant theory from a guy named Everett Rogers, and it basically gives us a roadmap for how new stuff, we're talking everything from apps to electric cars, actually spreads through society. Okay, so this bell curve right here, this is our map. It's our guide. It visually breaks down the entire population into different groups based on when they decide to hop on a new trend. Seriously, for any marketer launching something new, think of this as your secret playbook. So here they are, our 5 key groups of people. You've got this tiny little slice of innovators, then a slightly bigger piece for the early adopters. Then bam, you hit the 2 huge groups in the middle, the early and late majority. And then bringing up the rear, you've got the laggards. Let's get to know them. All right, first up, we've got the people who basically live on the cutting edge. These are the folks who are totally unafraid to try something that's brand spanking new. So let's meet these trailblazers, the people who are always first in line for everything. We call them the innovators, or, the techies. This group makes up the first 2.5%, and they are the definition of risk takers. They adopt new things just because they're new, full stop. They're not waiting for reviews, they don't care if their friends approve, they are purely driven by curiosity and a genuine love for the tech itself. Need a real-world example? Think Monzo Bank over in the UK. Go back to 2018, their super bright coral cards were a really rare sight. The only people you saw with them were the tech folks hanging out in places like Shoreditch. They weren't using Monzo because it was popular, heck no. They were using it because it was a cool, new, kind of geeky way to handle your money. Okay, coming up right behind the innovators is another super important group. These are the people who can kind of see into the future. Next up, we've got the early adopters. These are your trendsetters. Now, they listen to what the innovators are doing, but they're a little more selective. They adopt new things to get a competitive edge or because it really lines up with their values. These are the people who take something from weird techie thing to, hey, that's actually cool. This really sums up how they think. Just imagine the first people buying Tesla, say, back in the mid-2010s. I mean, charging stations were almost impossible to find. But these visionaries, they saw the potential. They were driven by this bigger belief in a greener future. And let's be honest, the status of being an eco-pioneer. Okay, so this next step, it is probably the single most important leap for any new product. It's the jump from those early fans over to the average person. It's a huge leap across what we marketers call the chasm. So let's meet them. This is the first big wave of mainstream customers, and these folks, they're way more practical, way more careful. And we are talking a huge group, a full 34% of the population. When this group starts buying your product, you can pretty much say you've officially made it. It's a hit. Now, the really important thing to get here is that this group doesn't take chances. They wait. They're the ones reading all the reviews, asking their friends, and they want cold, hard proof that this thing is reliable. Their main question is basically, are people like me using this yet? As soon as the answer is yes, boom, they're in. Contactless payments are the perfect example of this. For years, it was kind of this novelty thing that only the early adopters used. Then, it felt like it happened overnight. Suddenly, everyone, everywhere, was just tapping their card to pay. That exact moment when it flipped from being new to just normal? Yep, that was the early majority all deciding to jump in at the same time. Okay, let's move over to the second half of our curve now. Here, we're gonna meet the folks who are, let's just say, a little harder to convince. And you'll notice a massive psychological shift right here. See, the early majority adopts to get ahead, but the late majority, another whopping 34%, they only adopt because they feel like they're gonna get left behind. Their motivation completely flips from opportunity to social pressure and a fear of being the odd one out. And finally, last but definitely not least, we have the final holdouts, the true traditionalists. This is the final 16%. They are deeply, deeply skeptical of change and will only adopt something new when their old way of doing things just isn't an option anymore. Come on, we all know someone like this, right? The person who will only get a smartphone when their flip phone literally cannot make calls anymore. Okay, so this is all really fascinating psychology, right? But for all of you studying marketing strategy, here is the million-dollar question. How do we actually use this stuff? The biggest takeaway here is that you absolutely cannot use the same message for everyone. It just won't work. Your launch plan has to have different stages. For the innovators, give them beta access and all the tech specs. For early adopters, you got to sell them on status and success stories. For the early majority, you reassure them, hey, it's safe, it's popular, everyone's doing it. And for the late majority, you hit them with price drops and social pressure. You have to learn to speak each group's language. And that, in a nutshell, is the innovation adoption curve. It's a seriously powerful tool for understanding how people tick and for planning out your marketing strategy. So it leaves us with just one final question to chew on. When the next world-changing innovation drops, where on the curve are you going to be?